Mark, I want to ask you about one of those hot button words, and the word is failure. So what does failure...
You figured I could bring a lot of expertise in that area to the conversation.
That wasn't exactly where my mind went at all.
No, I got it.
But I know that you've spoken...
know that you failed a lot.
No.
You're right.
No, but I know that you've spoken about the importance of failure, actually, and it's a word that often has a lot of negative connotation to it, especially in the church. How might it be helpful to reframe that for our purposes?
So good. Yeah, I like to think. I think we can. We can put out small experiments. We can make small bets. We don't have to bet the farm.
Okay.
And a lot of times what I see youth workers doing with a great zeal and a passion for this is the way it ought to be done, and particularly around the area of family ministry, we often say, ministry ought to be done in the home. We're not going to have youth group anymore. We're going to let the parents do it. We'll give them their Bible studies. They can do them at home.
Right.
And sort of shut down, that sort of nuclear solution. Some churches can get there, but my recommendation is if you're going to fail, let's test it out. Let's test it for 6 weeks with the sixth graders and their parents and see how that goes, rather than betting the whole farm. But I think we can engineer failure, which is absolutely essential to successful ministry. And the fear of failure has kept churches not just stuck, but in decline. Choosing not to fail is like being on a down escalator. You can stand still and you are declining. And so we've got to be willing to try some things. The reason churches they say, I'll never do that again, because instead of trying a small bet where there's, it's like a laboratory, you can experiment and try things rather than saying we're blowing everything up and we're painting the sanctuary purple, right? But there are always ways, almost always ways, that we can, on the way to a radically innovative way of doing things, we can make small bets that we might have to try 5 or 6 things before we get one that works. And that's much slower than this kind of revolutionary approach of, I got this brand new idea, I'm going to blow everything up and start again.
Sure. Well, and it's also a holy idea in that you're working with the people you have instead of bringing in your own preconceived notions in the grand idea. It's actually a ministry of accompaniment, it sounds like.
Yeah, and we often assume, often I would have to say as youth pastors, which, I've been guilty of this, we assume, without putting these words in it, that we are bringing, the gospel.
Right.
We are bringing the ministry.
Right.
When in fact the ministry's been there, we're joining in that ministry and then catalyzing change within that. There's just a lot more respect there. I was speaking with somebody this week and we were talking about, he's a church planter, and he said, there's nothing quite as hard as church planting. And I said, well, I can think of one thing, and that is revitalizing an existing congregation that's in decline.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to start over.
Yeah.
But to honor a particular culture, to own where they are, and then to take them to the next step, the zone of proximal development. Yeah. To take them to the place they can say, I can learn this. They may not be able to get to here, but they can take the next step.
Sure.
Right? But to do that is going to put us in a situation where it's going to feel like failure. So I do think we can engineer small bets that is mitigated so we can have resilience to stay in the game, to keep failing some more.
Interesting, yeah.
5 failures is probably the price to pay for one decent idea.
That's an interesting new math for a lot of people.
I just made that up, but I think it's close.
I think that would sell.